So for this demonstration, we're going to be focusing on the advanced email and SMS tasks. And as you've probably guessed, the more advanced functionality of the task. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a list. It's just a sample customer list that I have, but it can really be any size that you want. And we're going to customize this component based on the information in that list. I would say it's safe to say that for a lot of businesses, this might be an issue. For a lot of businesses, they may send out a generic email to a client that simply addresses sir or madam and provides maybe an overview of what they're having to offer in hopes that maybe the client will reach out to them. Well, let's make it more personable. And that's what we want to do with the advanced email and SMS task in this example. If you've already read the blog, then you probably have an idea of what we're going to go into here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the document, customer prod list that I have. And again, this is just a very basic, simple list that I've created just up for this demo. But again, it can be multiple columns and thousands of rows. We challenge you to do that because guess what? The SMS task can handle it. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. As you can see, I have a name column, I have an email column, and I have a product column. Very basic information, very realistic information for what business probably have on their clients. Now, let's just say for the sake of this test that the product column is a most recent purchased product from this client or from this clientele. That's great. So what we want to do is we want to send out a more personal email. Instead of just saying, hey, thank you for the purchase of the product, you can find us here and respectfully in your name. We don't want to just do that. Let's customize it. Let's reach out to our clientele and let them know that we really do care and that we really do want to earn their business. SMS task makes that a little easier. So here's what we do. First and foremost, as we said, we have our document. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the name field, email, and product field, and I'm going to set those to a variable. I'll show you how this works. So let's go ahead. We've dragged over a data flow already, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and open up my data flow. And as you can already tell, I've dragged over a flat file source. Now I'm going to use a flat file source. You can use an Excel source. It's just going to change the configuration a little bit, but for this sake, I'm using a flat file source. I find it works a little bit better for this. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the flat file source. Now, if you haven't had it configured already, go ahead and do that. You would just select New, and you would select your configuration here. As you can see, I've already done so with this. I haven't named it, but I did find the file name, browsed for it, and I located the file document as we did here. Populated it. What I'm worried about here is to ensure that I have this set specifically for my locale. I have it set to English. The code page is ANSI Latin. What I'm really concerned with, though, is the columns in the Advanced tab. I want to make sure that all of the information is kosher, that it's showing well, that I have it in the order from the list that's coming from the source, because that's going to be important when we send it to the record set destination and populating our object variable. We go to the Advanced tab, and in the Advanced tab of this, again, it's just basic information of the Properties tab, but we want to make sure that we have all three columns listed there. We have the name, email, and product. So we can preview the data if we wish and see that, yes, okay, this is our end product. This is what it looks like. We click OK. Now we have a record set destination. We drag over record set destination, and this is where we're going to populate our object variable. Now, the object variable is going to be populated with the information coming from the flat file source. What's that information? Well, that information is the email, the name, and the product columns. So that information is going to be sent to this object variable so that we can pull from it and set it to our component. I'll show you what I mean. So we dragged over a record set destination. We open up the record set. And here is really the only column we're going to be focusing on. We're worried about the variable name. Actually, it's the custom property. I said column, but the custom property field is really what we're focused on. So we'll come here. We'll select our user variable, which was the object variable that we created. And we'll go to input columns. Now, input columns is actually pretty important because this is really where we're going to see the organization of the columns in that document. So we see that we have the name, we have the email, we have the product. This verifies that that information is in fact coming from the flat file source and into our object variable. So we can click OK. We go back to the control flow. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect the data flow straight to a for each loop container. As you know, a for each loop container is just simply used to repeat tasks in a package. For this case, we have, again, we have an email list. And in this email list, I want to configure every iteration. I want an email sent to every single email. So for one loop, we're going to send to Manuel, then to Melissa, then Ivan, and so on. And that's what we want here. So we'll go ahead and close this document. We connect it to the for each loop. Now let's configure this for each loop. Very basic, straightforward. We're really going to focus on the collection tab and the variable mappings tab. So let's look at the collection tab. For this case, I'm using a for each ADO enumerator. That's what I'm going to have my enumerator set to. Within the object source variable, the ADO object source variable, as you've probably guessed, we're going to select our object record set. That's our object variable. We have all the email, all of the information, the source information, getting sent to the variable. We go to the variable mappings. Again, this is an organization tab. It's based on index. This index goes from 0 all the way through as many variables as you have created. You can order them here. Now the fun part. We add the Task Factory Advanced Email and SMS task. But before we get into this, I want to ensure that we have our variables configured. Now we've already talked about the object record set variable, and then this is where we're really going to get all of our information from. But we have an email, we have a name, and we have a product variable. We're creating a variable for every column that we wish to customize our information in the body of our email. As you can see, the email has a value. This is important to note. When you're working with this sort of task, with the email specifically, you want to ensure that you have a value there. It will be required. If you don't have any value there, component will probably error out for you. So err on the side of caution, put a value in there. It doesn't have to be a valid email address necessarily. For this sake, I went ahead and just put my email address in there as a placeholder. The name field and the product field, both name variable and product variable. We're not going to have anything in there because that information can be populated by our object variable. So we go into the advanced email and SMS task. We've already configured our email connection manager, but if that's something you haven't done yet, this would be a good time to go ahead and do that. For our sake, we're selecting SMTP. Our mail server is smtp.office365.com. I have my username and the password. TLS is going to be selected with 587 is going to be the port. But as you can already tell, I've selected that and I've already configured that here. So I'm going to select my connection manager. Now for the subject line, this is also a really neat feature. For the subject field, you can also use a variable to populate this any which way you want to even further customize the information to your client. For this sake, I just hard-coded it in there, wrote it in there myself, just to let my team know that this is a test and that they can ignore it. For the from field, this has to be a valid email address. It's coming straight from you. So you want to select your email address or just place it in there. I went ahead and put mine in there. Now the to field's not as sensitive. I could change this to whatever I feel change it to. I could do it ABC or 123abc@pragmaticworks.com and it'll still succeed, and that's an invalid email address. We just have to have something populated in that field, and I'll explain that later on. So here's the body of our email. Very simple, very straightforward, but as you can see, I'm using a variable field to address the individual specifically, address the client specifically, and to discuss the product that they purchased, and to thank you for the purchase, and to tell them, hey, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need further assistance. That's what makes this a really great task, a really great functionality. Like I said, you can have a list of thousands and thousands of customers, of clients, and specify information specific to their needs and to their wants without having to go through every single iteration manually and do it yourself. This will allow you to do it. And here's how. So from our object set, from our object record set, from our object variable, we're pulling information like the email, the name, the product. Well, let's talk about the name and the product field. As you can see, we have it identified here, the username. But here's what we've done. We select this option, the press button to copy variable option, right click, and we would paste that variable into the field. I've already done it here, as you can see. So when the email is sent, it will say hi and then list whatever name is listed next in that iteration. We've done the same with the product field, which is listed here. We'll show you how that works here in a moment. Finally, we have the email. Now remember, we had an email list on that file as well. We want to send to that email. So we're going to go to expressions. We're We're going to go to the property field. We're going to select Send To from the drop-down. Now remember earlier we were talking about where we had to just have some value in this To field? Well, that's why. Because the information is actually going to be coming from our source file. We just have to have a placeholder in that information. It could be anything. So what we've done is we've dragged our variable, our email variable, to the expression field, evaluate, just to verify it evaluates to the value we placed here. We click OK, and we click OK again. And like that, we're set up. We're ready for execution. We're ready to execute this package and have it sent to thousands and thousands of your clients, customized to their wants and to their needs and to their desires. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Right click and we'll execute. The package is executed, continues to execute, and it will do this for every iteration through the for each loop container to each email address. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of these. It makes your job a little bit easier, especially if you want to run it from a scheduled job, as in SQL Agent. And the task completes. Just like that, you've had an email sent to all of your clients, providing them with the name of the task and addressing them directly. And here's a sample that was sent to me. I wanted to let you know that your recently purchased product, Task Factory, is ready for download through your customer portal. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need further assistance. It's a personal email sent to a client, and they'll see it as such. If you have any further questions about this task or any other tasks from the Task Factory line of products, please reach out to us. Let us know. We'd be more than happy to create a demo or conduct a demonstration for you of the product itself. Again, any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.